Hello, I'm Kelda Lane Poynott, author and educator. Welcome to Homeschooling 101, Chapter 4, Household Adjustment. There are a total of 5 chapters in this series. We have already covered planning, curriculum choices, and read! The final chapter is on registering, which will be specific to Louisiana. Regardless of how you're beginning this journey of homeschooling, there will be household adjustment. I would like for you to prepare your mind for that. If your children are young and you have already made the decision to homeschool, your lifestyle will naturally grow this direction. This is how it happened with our family. I made the decision when our oldest was about a year old, and from that point, I began reading whatever I could find to figure out if this was really what we wanted to do to educate him and prepare myself for the task. I had the luxury of a few years' cushion to grow into homeschooling before beginning formal learning. If your child has been at school and now you're planning to bring them home at the semester or finishing out the school year, you have time to assess your needs and decide and plan out curriculum before bringing them home to homeschool. We also have the household adjustment to crisis homeschooling. When I first recorded this, we were a month into quarantine. We were all affected. I can't tell you the number of phone calls, emails, and messages I received from friends and strangers. You'd think that a shutdown would be the worst of it, but crisis homeschooling also happens when a private school closes unexpectedly, a sudden relocation or loss of employment, medical or behavioral interventions, school violence, a breakdown with administration, or a family emergency dictates a shift toward homeschooling. This can feel overwhelming and add more turmoil to a situation because you were not prepared nor had you considered homeschooling. This calls for household adjustment. Here are a few areas I would like to touch on. Deschooling is a term that I read years ago and it rings true. If your children have been in a conventional, traditional school setting and you bring them home in the middle of the school year or before the school year ends, please give them time to de-school. This gives them the opportunity to decompress and transition into a new way of school. This could be a summer transition or a month to 6 weeks after you leave their formal learning environment. This time affords them time to read whatever they like, watch comforting television shows and movies, play outside, build things, and play games. Allow them opportunities to reconnect with their siblings, parents, and extended family. Then gradually build in a structure for your homeschool. You might start off with math and spelling and then incorporate the remaining subjects, gradually drawing them back into a homeschool environment. Let them get out or get through whatever they were exposed to before. This helps them settle down and shift into a new expectation. Instead of thrusting them from one environment into another, you give transition time. For the well-being of your family, please budget homeschooling. The first year we homeschooled was our son's kindergarten year. I went to a curriculum fair and picked out a few textbooks. I went to a curriculum fair and picked out a few workbooks. I stayed within my $50 budget. We were a single income family with 3 children. That was all I could afford. As we moved forward and learned how to manage our money better, we got out of debt and worked hard to maintain a budget. Budget is not a word that I liked, but thankfully as a team, my husband and I worked and made huge strides in that area. I also recommend that you budget because when a field trip comes up, you're going to want to have a cushion to afford to attend. When the schools resume in the fall and it's beautiful weather, you will want to take advantage of the zoos, museums, and not back to school activities. Include lessons or upcoming classes too. Within your homeschool budget, budget per child per year. That doesn't have to be an exorbitant amount. For what most families spend on school uniforms, I can homeschool. I am not afraid to buy used books and curriculum on eBay or swap with other families. For a few years, I swapped teacher materials with a friend because our children were on alternate math levels. It helps when you don't have the added expense of teacher keys and can focus on purchasing the student materials. Tight budgeting requires some creativity, but if you have $100 per child, you can homeschool. Don't let limited resources deter you. We included extracurricular activities in our budget also. Our boys played sports, our daughter took dance and gymnastics, piano was a required subject. We've had the opportunity to afford learning and fun because we budgeted it. We budgeted for it. Benjamin Franklin said, "An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure." The ounce of prevention refers to the planning in chapter 1. The pound of cure is the fruition and fun that comes from the plan. My children love Benjamin Franklin, and when we were studying early American history, we spent about 3 months reading every children's book we could find. We watched every movie. We were fascinated. Years later, when my children were in high school and in college, we finally took my dream field trip. Yes, I call all vacations field trips because they always include an educational component. It was a dream of mine to visit Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. While in Philly, we visited the Ben Franklin Museum. Our kids were able to see firsthand what they'd read about many years before and experience a figure in history who had a profound influence on our family. My husband quotes the adage, the rule of the 7 Ps. Prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. There are probably different variations of the 7 Ps, so use the version that best suits your family. The planning is the key. Moving on into organization. This parallels with planning, but it is different in the sense that we're in the trenches. How can we best build household management and organization around our day-to-day? Meal planning has saved me from an early grave. It began between my second and third child. Initially, I planned and cooked for 2 or 3 weeks. What started with one friend in my kitchen soon grew into 6 to 8 friends cooking together in a fellowship hall. This continued for a few years until we moved out of state. The ease and joy of knowing what's for dinner lightened my heart and made my days easier. A hard day of work lessened my stress. This also helped our budget because we ate out less. Meal planning ensures a hot meal at the end of a full day of learning or activities. There is also the potential for leftovers. When my husband came home from work and there was already food in the crock pot or heating in the oven, it promoted peace in our home. I didn't have to think about dinner because I'd put it in the crock pot at 7:30 or 8 o'clock that morning, or I pulled it out of the freezer to thaw all day. An added benefit of meal planning is that it saves time grocery shopping. Take an inventory of your pantry and fridge, make a list, and shop. The added convenience of grocery pickup or delivery is a bonus. Depending on how you meal plan, 1 to 2 weeks or a month, be sure to confer with your calendar and take note of your busiest days or weeks. Something else that helps in the trenches of homeschooling is to simplify the most used areas of your home. For the life of me, I couldn't figure out why our furniture wore out faster or why our appliances didn't seem to last. A friend gently reminded me that we lived on our furniture and used our appliances. We didn't leave our home daily for 8 to 10 hours for work and school. The sofa is where we read and learned. It was where we napped, played games, and recuperated from illness. Decluttering and organization do not come naturally to me, so I have had to read books to simplify cleaning routines and discern many things about our belongings. Ironically, a friend from high school passed me my first decluttering book, Clutter's Last Stand by Dawn Aslett. She and I rivaled the Messiest Room Award in our youth, so if this book helped her, I needed to read it too. For the better part of a decade, I consistently read homeschool books, decluttering and simplifying books, and the Bible. Even now, my feed is saturated with home organization videos. Why have I needed to do this? One article told me I was a vertical organizer. I tend to stack things up. Stuff accumulates around me, and I have to be intentional about passing things on and throwing items away. Even after decades of practice, clutter remains a constant battle, but I have skills now to help me combat it. Children need to be on board with this. Chore charts, daily list of responsibilities, and whatever else you can use to teach your young people the responsibility it requires for the daily functioning of a home. All of my kids knew how to cook, shop, and manage the basics of the home between the ages of 10 and 15. Break down tasks so that even young children can participate. Everyone works, and we are a team, contributing citizens within our household. Chores and daily duties teach that we are responsible for our pets, personal and community spaces, and cleaning up after ourselves. By the time they were 10, my kids did their own laundry. These responsibilities were gradually implemented over the years, enabling them to mature and understand what it takes to function in the world. Our goal is to get our kids to be functioning adults. I won't debate allowance versus Dave Ramsey's commission, but I've seen the benefits of cash motivation with my children. They learned early to divide their earnings into three categories: give, save, and spend. I love the Pinterest suggestion of a big bulletin board with jobs and cash thumbtacked to it. Beyond the usual household tasks, I paid them cash to mow, dust, clean toilets, pick up dog poop in the backyard, and any other task I'd pay someone to do. I also paid them $1 a box to line the fence row with mothballs to keep the snakes away. We rotated chores so that each child had an opportunity to master that task. And for me, it made it easier to follow up. If the floor wasn't swept, I didn't have to ask whose job it was. When my older children began working jobs, we had to change the dynamic. They are responsible for their rooms, laundry, and picking up after themselves. I don't have to pay them allowance anymore, and they have an understanding that if I work, I get paid. If I live in a space, I help to maintain that space. Cash may be less convenient because you have to make an extra trip to the bank or the ATM, but they learn its value and the direct relationship to work. Debit cards and mom's bank, wherein I keep the total and subtract as they use their funds, don't teach the direct correlations of money. For a season, every 2 weeks, we gave each child a roll of quarters. This was a reaction to my efforts to manage screen time usage. 1 quarter equaled 30 minutes of screen time. I didn't charge them for family movie nights or collaborative play with siblings, especially if they were getting along. But the minute one of them cried or complained, they had to pay up. This also taught them to problem solve conflicts, so they weren't penalized. If they wanted to play a game or watch a show by themselves, they put their quarters in a large lidded coffee can. At the end of the 2 weeks, they could keep whatever they didn't use. I soon realized that my more frugal children didn't need quite so much screen time as their siblings because they wanted to hold on to that cash. Now let's talk about the need for a daily routine. The word schedule felt regimented and didn't work for me with young children. Schedules work great in theory and look pretty written out on the calendar, but they never played out as planned. So I grew to appreciate a routine and rhythm. I needed this for my mental and emotional well-being. We are all around healthier within structure. Where we live, football is huge. We know not to plan events on a college Saturday, a professional Sunday, or even a high school Friday. As we look at our rhythms, we need to consider the season we are in. Our first year in Oklahoma, I introduced myself to a mom at the pool. It was hot as blazes, even in the early evening, and she commented, "Oh yeah, we homeschool too." We struck up a conversation as we moms do. Her children were a little older than mine, so I asked about when she began her school year. She said, "No, no, no, no. We homeschool all summer because it's too hot to do anything else. We homeschool during the summer, and then in the fall, we take off in September when the heat lets up." That summer's actual temperatures reached 107 degrees, not including the heat index. Brutal. This woman was a genius. She added, we homeschool all winter and then take off the month of April because it's warm and before the schools let out for the summer. Seasonally, how does this work for you? Some families school until November, take a break for all the holidays, and resume in January. This allows for family travel and Christmas pageants and performances. They dedicate this time to making Christmas gifts and baking. A beautiful part of homeschooling is that we have the entire year to fulfill the required 180 days of school. Our family planned school around one family planned school around dad's offshore work. They did school for 6 weeks at a stretch and took off to travel or spend time with dad when he was home. That was also when they did the majority of their science because dad wanted to be involved. What is the least interrupted time of your day? For us, it was between the hours of 9 and noon. This gave everyone time to wake up and get moving. That also gave me time to get the laundry started, prep whatever I needed for dinner, reply to emails, read, and enjoy a hot beverage. Between 9 and noon, I rarely answered the phone, protecting our school time. It is important to set the structure and routine. Prioritizing the expectation of school time was helpful. Include family time in your routine. This may be the only time in the day that our children spend with the other parent. Our family time was the hour or two before bedtime. We would watch a show or play a game and read. Always read. I didn't birth great sleepers, so we needed the evening routine to unwind. It also helped me transition from day mom to evening mom, anticipating downtime and clocking out. Baths and jammies were common, but while being home, baths could happen at any point they were needed. My husband's job demanded that he be out the door before 5 a.m. I needed a nightly routine to balance the early risers and the night owls. Otherwise, it was a constant, cranky battle. Adequate rest was non-negotiable to thrive in our homeschooling lifestyle. As an early bird, I accomplished most everything I needed to in the early mornings when the house was quiet. Now, let's transition into mom and parent time. If you are taking on this more than full-time job of homeschooling, I encourage you to add a layer of self-care. Self-care is divided into physical, spiritual, emotional, mental, social, and financial. I've already hinted at the importance of financial and the peace of mind that comes with budgeting for homeschool. It can sometimes feel isolating when we have our children home, isolated from our friends, spouse, family. We aren't doing what everyone else is doing, nor are we on the same timelines. As the primary educator, we set the thermostat in the home. If we are having a bad day, then it rolls over onto everyone else. Keeping ourselves mentally, emotionally, and physically healthy benefits our entire family. Our spiritual and social well-being also benefits our overall balance. Be mindful to take walks and get fresh air and sunshine. Exercise of any kind wards off stress. We sleep better too. We've already covered the importance of reading in the last chapter, but words feed our mind and spirit so that you can be the healthiest mom providing education for your children. I also encourage you to have a good circle of friends. They don't have to be homeschool moms, but sometimes that's a bonus. So be sure that you also have enrichment for yourself and you're nurturing friendships as well. Thankfully, I didn't learn the importance of spouse care too late. I wish someone had encouraged me to take time with my husband away from our children. We were married nearly 10 years before we had any idea what this looked like. Self-care includes healthy relationships, honest communication, and marriage maintenance. Our spouses need our attention, and we need theirs. We carve out for ourselves so that we can continue to show up and give our best. I appreciate the sacrifices we've made in the endeavor to home educate our children. He was 100% behind our choice to homeschool, but he wasn't the one carrying out the day-to-day. To fortify the primary relationship in the household, marriage enrichment is an investment, nurturing our commitment to ourselves and our children. Be intentional, especially in the challenging seasons. We weren't great at scheduling date nights, but we were good at early mornings and taking advantage when our kids were with friends and grandparents. Be creative with how you strengthen yourself and your team. This concludes Homeschooling 101, Chapter 4, Household Adjustment. I look forward to being with you again in Chapter 5, Registering. Registering will be specific to Louisiana. I hope that this has been an encouragement. If you need more information, check out my book, Homeschool is an Action Verb, and my website, keldalangpoinot.com. Includes printable resources and reading lists.